Knights stood as the guardians of the realm, sworn to protect the innocent and uphold the law. But what truly defined the knight was his honor, a code of conduct as rigid as steel, yet as nuanced as a blade he wielded. It was the invisible shield that guarded a knight's soul, a compass guiding his actions in the world where morality often stood on shifting sands. What if a knight loses his honor? Is there a path to redemption? Sir Roland was one of the kingdom's most decorated knights, known for his unparalleled skills and unwavering loyalty to King Alistair. Roland was a tall and broad-shouldered man, as he carried the scars of many battles, each a testament to his bravery and dedication. His position as the king's protector was a role he cherished deeply, and the king's trust in him was unwavering. One fateful night during a grand celebration at the castle, Roland made a grievous error. He drank excessively more than he had ever before. The festivities were lively, and Roland, for the first time, let his guard down completely. As the hours passed, he became increasingly inebriated and eventually stumbled to his quarters, failing to resume his post. The next morning, Roland awoke with a pounding headache and a sickening feeling of dread. The castle was eerily silent. As he rushed to the king's chambers, he found the doors ajar and the guards missing. He pushed the doors open, his heart racing. There, lying lifeless on his bed, was King Alistair, a dagger protruding from his chest. Blood soaked the sheets, and the room bore signs of a struggle. Panic and guilt overwhelmed Roland. He knew the kingdom would never forgive him in his lapse in duty. Worse, he knew the truth would be twisted, making him the prime suspect. Desperate, he fled the castle under the cover of darkness, abandoning his honor and his home. Roland's life on the streets was a far cry from the grandeur of the castle. His once proud armor was now a tattered cloak. His sword was exchanged for scraps of food. He wandered from village to village, doing odd jobs to survive, always looking over his shoulder. Rumors of the king's assassin spread, and Roland's name was tarnished. He avoided towns where he might be recognized, living a life of isolation and regret. Each night he was haunted by the king's lifeless eyes and the weight of his failure. His dreams were filled with the king's voice, a constant reminder of his dishonor. The once proud knight was now a broken man, his spirit crushed under the weight of his guilt. The assassination of King Alistair plunged the kingdom into chaos. With the king's successor only being a boy of 12 years, factions vied for power, each claiming legitimacy. The once unified kingdom was now a battleground, with skirmishes breaking out in the streets and alliances forming and dissolving in the blink of an eye. The common people suffered the most. Villages were raided, homes were burned, and families torn apart. The land that Roland had once fought to protect was now a landscape of despair and ruin. News of these events reached Roland, each report adding to his burden of guilt while he stared off in the distance toward the once prominent kingdom. One stormy night, as Roland stumbled out of a dilapidated tavern, he heard a commotion in a nearby alley. His instincts, honed from years of combat, kicked in. Despite his desire to avoid conflict, he couldn't ignore the sounds of a struggle. He turned the corner and saw a group of thugs attacking a young, hooded boy. Without hesitation, Roland drew his dagger and charged at the assailants. The fight was brief but brutal. The thugs, not expecting much resistance, fled into the night. Roland approached the boy, who was trembling and clutching at a blood-stained cloak. As the boy's hood fell back, Roland's heart stopped. It was Prince Edwin, the rightful heir to the throne. Edwin looked up, his eyes filled with fear and recognition. He tried to back away, but his injuries prevented him from escaping. You killed my father," Edwin spat, his voice shaking with anger and pain. "No," Roland said, softly kneeling beside the prince. "I did not kill your father. I failed him, yes, but I am not the assassin. Let me help you." Despite his distrust, Edwin was too weak to resist. Roland carried him to a nearby safe house, where he tended to the prince's wounds. As the night wore on, Roland explained his side of the story. He confessed his lapse in judgment and drinking and his overwhelming guilt. Tears filled his eyes as he spoke, and he saw a flicker of understanding in Edwin's gaze. "I should have been there," Roland said, his voice breaking. "I should have protected him," Edwin listened, his anger slowly giving way to empathy. "I believe you," he said finally, "but you must help me reclaim the throne. The kingdom is falling apart." In the months that followed, Roland dedicated himself to training Edwin. They moved constantly, staying ahead of the usurper's spies. Edwin was a quick learner, driven by the desire to restore his father's legacy and bring peace to the kingdom. Roland taught him not only the art of combat, but also the code of honor that had once guided his own life. "A true knight," Roland said one evening as they practiced swordplay by the light of a campfire, "serves with honor, integrity, and a commitment to justice. These are the principles you must uphold as king." Edwin absorbed these lessons, his respect for Roland growing with each passing day. The bond between them deepened, forged in the crucible of their shared mission. With Roland by his side, Edwin began to rally loyalists to their cause. Word spread of the prince's return and the fallen knight who protected him. Villages that had suffered under the rule of the usurpers began to rise up, inspired by the hope of a restored monarchy. The journey was fraught with danger. They faced ambushes, betrayals, and the ever-present threat of discovery. But with each passing challenge, Edwin grew stronger and more determined. Roland too found a renewed sense of purpose. He was no longer a disgraced knight. He was a mentor, a protector, and a man seeking redemption. In one particularly harrowing encounter, they were ambushed by a group of mercenaries loyal to the usurpers. The fight was fierce, with Edwin and Roland outnumbered and outmatched. Edwin fought valiantly, but it was Roland's experience and cunning that turned the tide. They emerged victorious, but not without cost. Roland was wounded, a deep gash across his side. As Edwin tended to his mentor's wounds, he saw the depth of Roland's sacrifice. "You've given everything for me," Edwin said, his voice choked with emotion. "I'm merely doing what I should have done in the beginning," Roland replied, "protecting the rightful king." The final confrontation came sooner than they expected. Word reached them that the usurper king was holding a grand feast in the capital. Confident in his rule, Edwin saw this as their opportunity. With their loyalists assembled, they launched a daring attack on the castle. The battle was fierce and chaotic. Edwin, now a seasoned warrior, led the charge with Roland by his side. They fought through the castle guards, their eyes set on the throne room. The usurper, a man named Lord Renwick, sneered as they burst into the hall. "So, the little prince returns," Renwick mocked, as with his pet knight. "Your reign ends now," Edwin declared, his voice strong and unwavering. Renwick drew his sword against Edwin for a fated duel of the kingdom. The clashing of swords echoed through the throne room, each strike a testament to Edwin's training and determination. Meanwhile, Roland fought off Renwick's guards, his movements a blend of skill and sheer power. At a critical moment, Renwick disarmed Edwin and prepared to deliver the killing blow, but Roland, despite his injuries, threw himself between them, taking the blow meant for Edwin. With a final burst of strength, Edwin seized Renwick's sword and defeated him, ending the usurper's reign. With Renwick's defeat, Edwin was crowned king, and peace began to return to the kingdom. The people rejoiced, and the land started to heal from the scars of war and division. Roland, gravely injured but alive, was brought before the new king. As Edwin placed the crown upon his head, he looked at Roland with deep gratitude and respect. "You saved me, Roland. You saved us all," Edwin said, "and you have redeemed your honor." Edwin reinstated the knighthood with Roland as its head, honoring the man who had taught him the true meaning of leadership and honor. The kingdom began to rebuild, with Edwin as a just and wise ruler, guided by the principles Roland had instilled in him. Years passed and the kingdom flourished under King Edwin's rule. Sir Roland, now revered elder statesman, continued to serve the realm with unwavering dedication. He trained new generations of knights, passing on the lessons he had learned through his own journey of failure and redemption. The story of Sir Roland and King Edwin became a legend, a tale of honor, perseverance, and the enduring power of redemption. The once fallen knight had not only reclaimed his honor, but had also ensured that the principles of justice and integrity would guide the kingdom for generations to come. On that note, that wraps up the story of the knight and his redemption. If you haven't already, I would appreciate it if you would like and subscribe. Also, leave a comment on any stories you want me to bring to life. But other than that, while this story may come to an end, the start of another begins.